giving him the authority to be just that, an authority. We thought it might be interesting to get Joel's perspective on a few of the more pivotal surfers in relative modern surfing history.
I think we were saying there's 4 people that really stand as far as influence, probably the most in the whole scheme of things. And there's other people in between that contributed stuff in design and like progression. But really, if you were to count 4 people that are the most, aside from the Duke, let's just take him out of the picture, you know what I mean? Because he stands on his own, you know, that's more of like how surfing branched out and got around the world. But there's 4 people. There's Phil Edwards, Jerry Lopez, Tom Curran, and Mickey Dora. Phil Edwards is a major influence, not just on me, but on like the grand scheme of things of the people that I'm influenced by. He was the influence for them. You know, Nat was inspired by Phil. He thinks Phil was amazing. I mean, you ask everybody from Skip to Henson, they all like, you know, they hail Phil. Basically, when surfing really made a turn, and all the progression, all the moves, and everything started to happen, it was everything after Phil. Phil is the key point. You know, I don't care what anyone says. You can argue it. Look at the footage. It can be opinionated, but I think a lot of people would agree. So after Phil, then it goes to Jerry, the Loper, like a really like key figure where a bunch of people were inspired after that. Basically, an entire look, an entire generation, all the way until current. Before even Jerry Lopez comes in the picture, you have to take where surfing had gone. You know what I mean? Like, went from nose riding to like mid-lengths, people barely being able to ride the tube, like in there a little bit, like pocket riding. Guys were getting barreled, but it wasn't on the level that Jerry and those guys were taking it. I'm sure there were guys in Australia and different places with the sand points that were doing the same thing, but it's a little different. It didn't reach the audience that Jerry did at Pipeline, you know what I mean? I was born in the 70s, I was a little kid towards the end of it, but I remember going to the movie theaters and like sitting in there and remembering his part, because it was the loudest part of the entire theater, you know? And, like the lightning bolts and the red boards, all these images like, stuck in my head, and basically forced me growing up to want to get to Hawaii, to want to go Pipeline, you know what I mean? To want to like, it wasn't Derek Ho or any of those guys, it was Lopez. I grew up in the 80s and the 90s, so Lopez was a little out of my window, but still, like, his whole style, and not just for me, but I'm sure the generations that are coming up right now, it's timeless, you know what I mean? Everything was perfect, and the boards and the, you know, the way they rode, you can't really beat it, you know? I'm sure any kid in the mid-80s could say that Tom Curran was their hero, you know? For me, for sure. Look, man, I'm a longboarder, you know, and not a lot of people influenced me. Maybe Christian Fletcher, maybe somebody else, you know, because it was like so shocking. But Curran, for me, like to bridge the gap between long and short, and like making it look beautiful, he was the king. That's why he stands for all progression, all influence of Kelly and Andy and Bruce and that whole generation. Not just for me, but every other kid that belonged at that time were all, you know, influenced, you know what I mean? We thought it was cool. He got our nod. And it wasn't just the surfing, it's the whole picture. He's Pat Curran's son, you know, he's definitely got a history in you know, surf culture and all different stuff, and you can see it too when you see him. He's not into the attention. When he goes out in the water, it's like, all hail. And even now, same deal. Everybody's still like almighty. Mickey Dora and the importance of surfing and the grand scheme of things. As far as riding waves, it still stands advanced. Sense of trim, the way he rode Waimea. Most of the people in the late 50s and the 60s were kind of like not really breaking trim, you know what I mean? Everything was sort of a straight line, and really aside from him and Phil Edwards and some different people, but really his style like was crazy. The maneuvers that he was doing for the boards and the time that was, it was like this, you know? And then if you throw someone in the middle who stayed true to form throughout all generations and all transitions, you've got Dora. And basically represented the anti-establishment, kind of represented the voice outside of professional surfing, you know? But what is it? Hang on. I mean, surfing, when you think about it, the majority of it, 90% 99% of the people that do it don't compete. 99.5%, you know, and the competition part is 1%. You know, what you see and what you read is like one whole deal, and then the actual lifestyle of living it is an entirely different thing, you know? And Mickey represented the lifestyle, like the other flip side, which basically represents everybody. Because it had nothing to do with being a sportsman or making money or anything. It was just more of like pulling off the lifestyle and doing whatever it took, whether it be scamming or anything, to like continue just being able to surf for the rest of your life. And that's why he stands out in the middle of it. With everybody else making money and becoming professional and this industry and different stuff, he had this one little thorn the entire time until he was dead. It like sat in there and affected everybody. Even on his deathbed at 67, it broke. I mean, it was everybody. You know, New York Times, different impact. You know what I mean?